Hello and welcome to the very first Scottish Football Forums podcast as we look ahead to the return of the SPL.
It's Juranovic! Brilliant! Just brilliant from Nikita Juranovic! He's Aguirre! Hooper! He's only gone and scored again! Well, here Novi Kovas and Kieran Kyle!
Hello, I'm Craig and I'm the founder of Scottish Football Forums, and I'm joined today by a regular writer for SFF, Laurie.
Hello.
And joining us is a special guest, the owner of thefootyblog.net, Scott.
Yeah.
The wait is almost over and the SPL season gets underway on Saturday, so we felt it was apt to go through each of the 12 teams in the SPL and discuss their transfer dealings and our expectations for them throughout the season. First up is Aberdeen. They've had a few players out the door this close season, but perhaps two of those stand out, and that's Chris Maguire, who moved to Derby for a fee in the region of 400,000, and Xander Diamond, who was released following the end of his contract. Coming in, there's goalkeeper Gonzalez, who signed on loan on a 6-month loan from Manchester City. The loan is cover for Jamie Langfield, who unfortunately had a seizure over the summer, and although it was pretty serious, the doctors are saying that he should be able to return before the end of this year. Expectations for the season coming ahead. I really like what Brown has done at Aberdeen. He took them last season from basically relegation battlers at points and really put them on the up. So I've got them finishing, I predict they'll finish in the top 6 this season. I have them finishing in 5th place, which is optimistic, but I think he will do a good job. Laurie, what do you think the season ahead?
I think they will be challenging top 6. I believe I put them 5th as well. It was either 5th or 6th between them and Motherwell. I think they have showed a lot of improvement under Brown. I think they couldn't have done much worse, the first half of the season under McGee. And they made a couple of good signings. I mean, a couple are unknown quantities at this stage. I know Gonzalez comes from Man City. The one thing I did notice, he was 3rd choice at Leeds when they were in League One. He was on loan there. So at this stage, I'm not sure how well he will do there, but obviously they needed a bit of backup for Langfield. Yo Mawene, I remember seeing him for Preston a couple of years back. He always seemed like quite a solid sort of centre half. Clark did well for them before. And I think Kari Arnason, this big Icelandic lad who was on trial at Hearts, I believe he is signing for them. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed 100% yet. So I think they will improve a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up maybe just missing out in the top 6, but at the same time, I think 5th place wouldn't be beyond what they could do. I think maybe they could do with another player up front. Obviously, with losing Maguire, they've not got so much attacking prowess at the moment. And I'm not sure about fullback area. They were a bit light there last season. I just don't think they've brought in maybe enough cover there as of yet. And possibly, I don't know, maybe another sort of central midfielder they could do with. Obviously, even though Hartley was injured all last season, he was sort of the main guy in there. And I'm not sure. I suppose they've got Fraser Fivey, but whether or not he's ready enough to play a kind of full season controlling the midfield, I'm not sure. But I just think a good season ahead for them, and I reckon top 6 for Aberdeen. Maybe 4th would be a bit too far away, so I'd say 5th would be the highest they could be aiming for. How about yourself, Scott?
Well, I think Grandpa Brown does well in getting the results. I think even from his Scottish national legacy will be that whatever he done, he kind of got his good results. Maybe not pretty football, but I think in a results business, that's the main thing you get from Craig Brown. I think you look at the signings, it's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes in there. It'll be interesting to see how Chris Clark does back up at Aberdeen. I thought he was actually a decent player for them then. I think his first year at Plymouth, he kind of actually did well there as well. Then I think, it's hard once the Plymouth went down the pan. I think you can't really judge any squad on that when they're not getting paid, and there's a lot of difficulties. I think they need another centre back. I think Xander Diamond got a bit stale up at Aberdeen, and it's going to be surprised to see wherever he goes. Chris Maguire, it'll be interesting to see how he does in the Championship. I was surprised that none of the Old Firm maybe took a punt on him on a free transfer. Well, I don't know if they've been a free transfer, obviously about 400,000 maybe in compensation.
I think that was after a tribunal.
So still, it's not a bad price. Derek Young was always an average player, so I don't think they'll miss him, to be honest. So I think they still need a few more players. I think he needs to get a couple of loan deals in. I think maybe a centre back, and as you said, Laura, I think a striker's probably a position that he needs to fill, and hopefully get a goal scorer. I would say top six, maybe sixth place is as good as they get. But I think if they remember the Mark McGee second season, then they'll be happy with that.
There's been a long-running rumour about Gavin Rae signing. I'm not sure if you've heard any more about that.
Well, the last thing I heard was he was wanting to stay in England, and Charlton were sniffing around him. So it just shows you the pool that Scotland has, that a League One team like Charlton can come in and beat Aberdeen to a signature. So it wouldn't surprise me if he actually stays down south. I think that was what his talks have been.
Yeah, he was mentioned along in the same breath really as the Derek Riordan rumour, which I don't know if you heard, that he'd been offered a deal and he was supposedly boasting about it in a pub. But who knows with these rumours, eh?
The thing with Derek Riordan is he's, I think money was always a big sort of incentive for him, and he's getting 30 grand a week in China. So even if he's lasted a year, he would be getting. I can't imagine Aberdeen would pay much more than a tenth of that. So I think it's fair to say he went where the money was, even though a move to China probably isn't the best in terms of his football career. I think it's maybe the best for his bank account just now.
I think the other thing is you have to remember every pre-season clubs like to put a spin on stories. I think the Riordan, Nacho Novo were offered to Aberdeen stories. It's great for Craig Brown to say that, but you kind of know in the back of your head that even if they were offered to them, they couldn't afford them, and that's the bottom line. So I don't really know why they even mentioned the fact that they were offered these players.
I don't know, have you got any contributions from the forum there?
I've got an Aberdeen fan, JB 1978, on the forum. He reckons that Aberdeen will improve on last season, and he hopes they're not involved in a relegation battle. He hears that in pre-season they've been playing 4-3-3/4-5-1, so surprisingly it sounds as if Brown's going slightly attacking. He's expecting to push for a top six and hoping for a cup run.
Thank you for those comments there, JB. And on that note, I think it is time to move on to the next team, which is, of course, Celtic. I guess the main issue with Celtic will be if they can improve on last season and go as far as winning the title. In terms of transfers, not a whole lot of activity yet in terms of transfers in. Kelvin Wilson from Nottingham Forest, which was agreed quite a while back, big centre half. Adam Matthews from Cardiff, young Welshman who I hear is good on FM, which I'm sure means he's going to be a fantastic player. They don't usually get it wrong. Dylan, I was speaking with Craig about this earlier, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say his second name. Dylan McGough or McGow, not sure how you say it, so apologies if both of them are wrong, who agreed a deal a few months back to move from Rangers to Celtic, which I believe he moved to Rangers from Celtic originally as well when he was 14, so that was one of their other transfers. And finally, Victor Wanyama, the Kenyan central midfielder. In terms of transfers out, there's been a couple of kind of reserve fringe players. The main one out, I suppose, is Fraser Forster, whose loan deal came to an end and they couldn't secure him on a full-time deal. Freddie Ljungberg out as well, but I don't think that will affect the team too much. In terms of their signings, it's strange. I saw Celtic as being quite weak at the back in terms of centre-back especially, but they actually had the best record in the league last year, and I understand it was the best defensive record in an SPL season ever. Might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. But with Kelvin Wilson, I think that could improve them there. I've heard good things about him, that he's quite a strong commanding centre-back. I haven't seen him much in person. A new keeper is obviously something that's a must, although a few Celtic fans have told me that Zaluska could do a job. I'm still not convinced from what I've seen when he's played at Celtic, although he was quite impressive at Tannadice when he was at Dundee United. They've got Pletikosa on trial just now, highly rated by Harry Redknapp, but as I've mentioned before, the fact that Hilarious Gomez gets a game for Harry Redknapp doesn't tell me he knows an awful lot about goalkeepers. In terms of the youngster from Celtic, I actually heard he's getting paid $3,000 a week, Parkhead, and for a 17-year-old, I thought that was ridiculous kind of wages. But I'll be expecting some big things from him in the future if that's the case. In terms of what I thought Celtic needed, they've got a lot of central midfielders, but I still thought they could maybe do with someone stronger in there. I remember when I saw Celtic lose at Tynecastle at Hearts, I thought Ian Black kind of bullied him about the centre of the park. That Key couldn't really get on the ball so much, and I'm wondering if maybe Wanyama can solve that occasionally if they need a bit of bite in the central midfield. He looks the sort of this kind of strong player they'd need. And I think we might see a striker get signed by Celtic before the end of the transfer window as well. I do rate Stokes and Hooper quite highly. As for the long-haired Greek fellow, doesn't always win over the Celtic fans well, even though I've seen him a few games where he's looked pretty decent when he's interested, but I still think we should see a striker come in before the end of the transfer window. And I probably won't go down well with my colleagues on the show today, but I fancy Celtic for the league next season. I think Neil Lennon has grown into the job a lot. I think they play good football, I have to say. At times last season, I definitely think they were the team playing the best football in the league, maybe Kilmarnock to a lesser extent. And I think Ali McCoy's maybe going to still be finding his feet in the job. I fancy Celtic for the title this coming season. What about yourself, Scott? What are your thoughts on them ahead of the new season?
I think last season a lot of credit has been given to Neil Lennon for a lot of things they've done well at Celtic. I'm not too sure bringing players in if that's his job, but he certainly gets them in the right positions, gets them working. I think the signings coming in, I've heard that Kelvin Wilson is very slow, and that would be my only worry is him and Mostorovic together. If there's a bit of pace in the attack of the opposing team, especially in Europe, would that be a problem? I don't know too much about Victor Wanyama, but from all accounts, he's a good tackling midfielder. But again, I think he'll probably sit on the bench more often than not. They'll let Key and Kayal take over that kind of role. I would say Scott Brown will go playing probably more on the right when he plays. It'll be interesting to see how much game time Adam Matthews gets. Players released. I think Hinkle was released as well, which is obviously frees up a spot for Matthews. How I think the season will pan out for them. They need another striker. I think Samaras isn't prolific enough. To be perfectly honest, I think we score a couple of goals against Rangers and suddenly you're touted as player of the season for one game. Kind of shows his performances. Stokes, I think Stokes is dear Chris Boyd to an extent. I think Neil Lennon just doesn't trust him, especially in the bigger games. There seems to be a bit of friction between him and Stokes, which, Lennon and friction, the guest, that'd be an issue. I think Hooper's a fantastic signing. I think himself, Kayal and Izaguri were wonderful signings last season. So I think if they get another good striker, they'll obviously definitely be in for a shot at winning the title anyway. But as things stand, with the way things are at the moment, I think they're a fresher team. and